Welcome to Make a Path Presents for part 2 of the Dead Living Q&A. Let's jump right into this because we got a lot of questions. If you're not familiar with Dead Living or this Q&A or the comic, which I am a creator and writer of, and James Milne is kicking ass doing the artwork, I'm going to leave the playlist in the eye up here and in the video description. Let's jump into this. Ronnie, I'm curious about how you found your artist for your comic. I found him online. And how did you decide to go with him or her? It fit. I mean, it fit with as far as what I told him I needed as far as promos, and because at the time he was helping out and he was on point, he was dedicated. He's not talking about how much can I get paid right off the bat. And this is a project that's a passion project. So as far as finances, I don't have the money to fund a whole comic. So he's really putting a lot of faith into this becoming successful. I will say too, a lot of it had to do with his Feeding Post promos. He sent me over a few examples, and there's two that he sent me that I knew instantly I wanted to make those the two variant covers because I love what he did. So it was a perfect fit. Will there be villains throughout the series? Absolutely. Some of the villains might be just desperate people. Some of the villains might be technically the circumstances that they found themselves in. Some of the villains could even be Mother Nature, perhaps. There's actually a flood in part of the story, which I freaking love the idea of this. I can't wait to show you guys what's coming up. Ronnie, how will I be able to read this? Obviously, we're thinking about releasing it digitally, where it will be in black and white, and then anyone who wants to buy the physical copy can get it in color. So we're still experimenting, but right now, as far as getting it digital, that's easy. All you do is download the file, and then buying a physical copy will announce where we're selling it officially when the time comes. Will the Feeding Post part of this story be near the end? Also, roughly how long will the story be? I don't know how long the story is going to be because I haven't polished the end. There is definitely an ending. I did not jump into this project headfirst until, or I should say, I was hesitant until I came up with an ending. The day where I sat back and I was like, holy shit, that is my ending. I love it. That's the day where I jumped in this project 100% and was like, I'm doing this. As far as the Feeding Post, no, it's not near the end, but it catapults the story towards an ending. What's happening at the Feeding Post, the events surrounding it, leads directly to the ending. Some of those characters involved in the first issue, as they evolve later on after we meet them, they directly tie into the ending. How are you doing your speech bubbles and lettering? Then you put I guess it's a free commercial use font link here. I'm doing the lettering, and I have a few pieces of software here for the speech bubbles. If this comic is a success, will there be an origin to the zombies? Absolutely. That's a part that is probably completely different from The Walking Dead that people ask. The origin, the purpose of the zombies, that plays a vital role in, how the world got how it is. And it's probably something that I'm definitely going to have to spoil. I'm trying not to, but I'm absolutely going to have to spoil that before it's released because it sets it apart from other stories. So there's no way around it. And I think we need that, because people otherwise will just think it's a copy paste of what's popular. How much time between issue 1 and 2 release dates? We don't know that. We need to get done with issue 1 as far as completely done with coloring and everything. We need to promote it. We need to put it up, see who's interested, get it sold, get it shipped. I mean, we're doing this ourselves. Chances are how it's going to go is I'll have a packing party, which means I'll get a bulk amount of comics delivered to my house. I'll have friends and family over to do a packing party, which is we get everyone's order together and we actually ship it ourselves. We don't have anyone else doing this for us. Chances are it will come down to that. So I can't just simply work, take care of my daughter, work on the channel, and get the comics, package them all, ship them all. If there's a few hundred, it's going to take some time, and I don't know how much time yet, so I don't know. And if James is doing the same thing in the UK at that same time, that will definitely cause a delay. So we're just not sure yet, but it's looking very successful at this point that there will definitely be an issue 2. It's absolutely looking like that. But I tell you what, we will try to get it out as soon as possible. This needs to have a very different story to The Walking Dead to make it work. I absolutely agree. Where I will disagree is, well, no, you're saying the story. Here's the thing, sometimes a problem I see along the way where someone wants to do a zombie story and people see zombies, people see survivors trying to survive from zombies, and they look at that as the only story. Zombies, you know, how they look, how they move, there's definitely going to be differences. There's definitely differences in my story, but it's the same idea as if someone wanted to make a vampire movie. You wouldn't hear, oh, you're making a vampire movie, and you wouldn't immediately go, oh, don't tell me they suck blood, because that's been done to death. Well, that's why people like vampires, because it's a vampire. They want those similarities. So as far as certain similarities, there's definitely going to be there. Definitely going to be there. But as far as the story is absolutely different from the start. I will say, when you look at an outbreak or a downfall, or let's say people rioting, or let's say people getting scooped up, being evacuated from certain areas, some of that's going to seem similar. It's going to seem the same. But that's an evacuation. There's only so many ways to do it, which there's a part of the story that makes the evacuation, makes the quarantine, radically different than what is in The Walking Dead or what we have seen in a lot of things, because of the one element that's hidden in there that I can't reveal because that's the spoiler. I'm definitely interested in supporting you, but will this be available outside the U.S.? You know what? I don't know where yet outside the U.S. we can do. I have to look at shipping. How much is it going to cost? Who all wants it in different areas? That's another thing. And we're going to have to set up something where we can ask you guys, where are you located? Are you, and I'm going to have to ask you to be honest. If you're absolutely serious in buying an issue, just be honest. I'm not going to, my feelings aren't going to be hurt if you're like, well, I want to bootleg the shit online. I don't want a signed issue, or I don't want an actual issue. That honesty absolutely helps me, you know, a lot better than just saying, oh yeah, I'm interested. So we're definitely going to have to set up something where we can see more exact numbers of who is all interested. Is there a character with a signature weapon that will be used for a long time, like Rick's revolver or axe? Well, it might not be as cool as a revolver or an axe. However, there is a character with an ice pick. There's something that is incredibly different, I feel, in this zombie story compared to The Walking Dead, if that's another thing somebody want to know about, people want to know about. It's going to be more realistic, more harder to pierce a skull with a knife. We're going over a lot of research as far as the bodies and attacking the bodies, and I'll let you know right now, one of the characters, they do run into a problem where they try to stab a person in the head and it does not kill them, and they eventually will be using an ice pick. So it's not as cool as a revolver, but there is a character with a modified ice pick that is going to be technically his signature weapon. You will see some signature weapons. I know there's a character that even the rider, he every now and then uses a sword at a convenience. It's not a signature weapon, so to speak, like with Michonne. You rarely see her with a gun. You see her with a sword. The rider will use a sword on occasions to be quiet. However, he much rather prefers guns, you know, and he's not picky to what kind of gun. So there's going to be stuff like that you'll see. I know there's a handful of characters that they're not picky as long as they have a certain weapon, you know, and they will have other weapons that they're more comfortable with, some weapons that they grow fond of, you know what I mean? But yes, a couple signature weapons. Not every single character is not going to have a signature weapon, though. I think the game changer could be the zombies can talk. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If I tell you right now, there is no way in hell I will ever make the zombies talk in my comic. Without a shadow of a doubt, you can quote me on this now, they will never, ever talk. That doesn't say they don't communicate, though. I've said too much. Hey, Ronnie, important question. With all the passion you have for The Walking Dead, how do you avoid that story will influence yours? So many things have already been done in the genre. Would be easier to write a comic about a necrophiliac unicorn that hasn't been there yet. I appreciate this very personal video. Very good. Here's a couple things that I do want to point out, though. Again, between the similarities that will always be there in zombie genre. That's my favorite genre. So those certain similarities as far as, let's say, the zombies or people going in a building or going on supply runs or whatever it may be, that's pretty damn similar to everything in the zombie genre. That's been in literally every zombie movie has people finding a place that they can board up or wait it out and then relocate to another place, or going on a supply run, either living or maintaining in a certain community, whether it's big or small, whether it's in a mall or a fenced-in actual outside community. There's so many different similarities when someone wants to do something that's in the zombie genre, did I say that right? Those similarities have to be there because we want to make a zombie movie. Same thing with wanting to make a vampire movie. Now there will be differences, you know what I'm saying? There will be some vampires that garlic doesn't burn them, holy water doesn't burn them, some vampires that fly, some that don't, some that float, some that are strong, some that don't, some that move fast, some don't. Those things will change, but there will be definitely similarities. As far as my passion for The Walking Dead, I definitely use that as a benefit because of studying the comic so much, having discussions about the comic and the show and storytelling. There's so many parts where I was able to go, that's too familiar, I got to take that out. And I don't have to go back and do research on The Walking Dead because I already know it. I've already read the comic multiple times. And it's just like that time where, and here's a problem with similarities. There's a time where I told you guys, go back in my update videos, and I've talked about this a number of times, where I talked about a character in my comic coming across a wooded area like a tree line, and there was heads on spikes, and that was the warning, the border you do not cross, all right? Now, I am so glad I talked about that almost a year before it was in the comic, and even at that time, there was no way in hell anyone was predicting that happening in the comic. I talked about a part of the story that would later be almost identical in the Walking Dead comic. Similarities aren't always just copies. Robert Kirkman did not watch my video and go, holy fuck, that's genius. Alpha's gonna make a border with heads. You know what I'm saying? It was just a really cool kick-ass zombie idea that two totally different people actually had, you know, near the same time. So with similarities, not all of it is going to be copying, but knowing as much as I know about The Walking Dead, it's so much easier now for me to go, okay, this is riding too close. Again, I was able to say, my story is too close to the Whisperers right now. I need to alter it to make it different. And I chose to make it different. And I think that some people who are skeptical, go back and watch that video. I made the choice, instead of keeping that in the story, I made the choice that it would hurt my story. And even though I came up with that idea a year before it was used, I cared that my story would not be labeled as a copy-paste, because it would. You know what I'm saying? People wouldn't go back and go, oh, he did announce that long before it was used in The Walking Dead. People wouldn't do that. They would just say, The Walking Dead's more popular, you copied off them. And it would be the other way. It wouldn't be the other way around, but I'm just saying, similarities, it was just a coincidence that happened, which is pretty damn cool. And it's another thing that gave me confidence to go out and do the story, because so many people liked the way that played out, and it was so damn similar to a part in the story that I had written that I feel people would have liked that too, you know? But yeah, knowing the story makes me very confident that I can spot parts that are way too similar and I need to change. I have a question about the collapse of society. Will the planes fall from the sky? Will the cops go nuts and start executing civilians? I don't know if planes are going to fall from the sky at this time. There might be something later on in the story that might call for that to happen. But what happens in this story is slightly different. It's not as chaotic right away. It's a gradual, oh shit moment as far as gradually getting to the zombies. Because the biggest difference is people don't turn into zombies right away. There's not like that, get a fever, you get sick, you turn into zombies. There's an element where a lot of people get sick and die days before the zombie outbreak. So you have this sickness, this virus, this plague that wipes out so many different people, and it's a gradual phase. So people who are sick, they're so sick they're not going into work. They're calling off as far as airline pilots. And it does hurt in a way where some airports might be shut down in certain areas because of the majority of people getting sick and how it's saturated in that one area, and then how it spreads after that. As it starts, as this virus or the sickness affects people in an area, other areas essentially aren't affected. So it's as if it starts in this one area and then spreads out. And it might even take a month before, the infection reaches other places. And I think that is probably one of the most exciting elements as far as writing this. Difficult too, because there's a ton of research I'm doing as far as the electrical grid, nuclear power plants, and everything like that. How the economy works, how trading works, shipyards, and everything. And I have to do all that research to add that realism to it, because there's an area of the United States that isn't infected, and it spreads outward from there. So you'll see people across the country watching this, hearing about this, knowing it's coming straight for them, and there's not a fucking thing they can do about it, and it is terrifying. And I think that's one element in the story I want to capitalize on and show that fear, and that's why we show two different characters in two different states. We can see a character that's in the thick of it, which is Tristan, and it's a character that goes through so much shit. I made it a joke that my goal is to put this character through so much shit that you grow to love him so much that you beg that we just kill him off to put him out of his misery already. You know what I mean? Because the character, well, there is another character that goes through something that's so heartbreaking. I had trouble writing it down because it's just messed up. But I was taking some of the elements from realistic horror stories in war or concentration camps, the Holocaust. So there's some really brutal shit that happens. But it's a part of the story that I just cannot wait to get it out there and to reveal it, and I'm really excited about. And I think it's actually very different from what people are thinking they're getting into. All right, we're going to stop part 2 right now, and we're going to get into part 3 in a different video, and we're doing that so people can watch these in tidbits and they're not overwhelmed by like an hour and a half long Q&A video. All right, give me your thoughts, opinions, suggestions, any excitement, any disappointment. Put those down in the comment box. I'll see you guys in part 3. I'm done talking. It's your turn.
Subscribe now.